Hey guys, I'm Carlos Colon with Georgia Perimeter Homes, and these are the 7 things that you need to know in selling your home. Number 1. You're not actually done spending money on your house. So there's a misconception when you put your house on the market. Yay, we're done and we're gonna find a buyer and we're just gonna close it and move on. That is not at all what happens. In fact, through the processes, you'll probably spend a little bit more money in order to be able to get to the closing table. And so a lot of that really has to do with condition and certain things with homes. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand when you're selling a house. And so a lot of sellers say, yeah, but I'm selling as is. Well, I'll promise you, if there's a gas line that's broken, that's leaking into the house, are you really not going to fix that before somebody moves in? Because if you don't, you're opening yourself up for a lawsuit. And so, you know, there's certain things, even in an as-is sale, that you really should do to protect yourself from potential future problems. Number 2. There are things that you can't take with you. So when you're selling a house, you can't just pick up the floors, for example, the hardwood floors that you got, and just take those to the next house and put down a new floor. You really could, but do that before you put it on the market. And so there are certain things that sometimes sellers don't understand, like, hey, you've got a beautiful heirloom chandelier from your family and that doesn't go with the home. We should probably remove that chandelier before we take pictures and go to market. And the reason why that's so important is however you market that home becomes evidence to what you used to be able to get that buyer and set the expectation for that buyer. And once again, you don't want to open yourself up for potential lawsuits or potential claims, even if it's a small claims. We want to avoid these issues on the front side. So if you just spent $5,000 on fixtures and light fixtures and all kinds of things for your home, you should probably remove the ones that you want to take with you and replace them with something that doesn't break your heart to leave. And so that's a very important lesson that a lot of sellers should think about on the front side. In talking about that, we really need to talk about what fixtures are. And so the simplest way to think about it is if it's attached to my ceiling, my wall, or my floor, it should probably stay. Now, there are exceptions to this, but that's the simplest way to think about it. And in a situation where you want to know specifics, call us or call your agent. They'll explain it. Number 3, your home will never actually be perfect. Even if it's a new construction, it will not be perfect. And so there are things that will need to be done or that should be done to the home regardless. And so the best option for most people, if your home is in really good condition, wait to do anything until you receive that inspection report first. And then also, just because you got an inspection report with 100 pages on it doesn't mean that that's what you should do. Lean on your agent and negotiate what's actually important versus what's not. A lot of times, and 9 times out of 10, most of these things that are in the report are going to be things that are in every home. And so it's important to understand that even on a new construction, we will typically get an inspection, and that's simply because people are human. We'll make mistakes through the construction process, which means sometimes a vent isn't hooked up when it should be, or sometimes even though it's brand new wiring, sometimes they still flip-flop the wires and got it backwards anyway. There's small things like that, but you know, are those deal breakers necessarily? Not in most cases, but each situation is different. So make sure you speak to your professional about that. Number 4, and probably the biggest one that we should be talking about in this video, is going to be the fact that realtors and agents make huge mistakes when it comes to pricing of homes. And so I say this because what ends up happening is sometimes sellers hire friends to sell their homes. And this is just an example. It could be somebody that's not your friend too. And when you do that, and maybe they don't have a whole lot of experience selling homes, and you think you're doing your friend a favor and they're helping you out, great. But the problem is, depending on where we are in the market and what area you're in, this might be tens of thousands of dollars difference net to you in your pocket, and it has nothing to do with commissions. It has to do with the pricing and the strategy to sell your home that is going to be done incorrectly the first time, and you won't even know until after you sold your home. It's really important to make sure that you speak with several agents. That way you can narrow down who you can really trust about the value of your home and really get the best consensus on why they're saying your home is worth what it's worth. And they'll set a plan. A good agent, just so you know, will always set a plan and a strategy for achieving the highest dollar amount, and they'll lay it out for you. It should never be a guess. Number 5, a lot of people don't know this, but when your home is going to have an open house or an open house strategy for marketing to be able to sell it, your neighbors will probably enter your home. So you should probably think about that in advance and talk to your agent or whoever's running the open house in advance so that they can prep this ahead of time on if maybe you don't like the neighbor next door and you don't want them walking through, or you don't trust them. Okay, have that conversation internally. And so a lot of people don't realize that when you have an open house, yes, there are several nosy neighbors that'll come through and just to be nosy. And sometimes they think about selling themselves. The truth is when we're doing open house strategies internally, for example, that we actually want your neighbors to come through, and the reason is because they're typically the best advocates to try and get you, number one, a great neighbor for them, number two, the highest sales price, because if you could imagine, it also raises their sales price and their home value as well. So speak with your agent, make sure that there's a plan for you in your home, because this doesn't always work the same way. We probably don't want to do an open house this way for maybe $1 million listing. So it just depends on your particular situation. Number 6. If you're in a situation where you're selling your home, this could happen before the closing or right after if you have a temporary occupancy. A lot of sellers don't realize they're going to start to feel like a stranger. You're going to start to feel like a stranger in your own home. And so usually this is because you've already started to mentally and emotionally move on. And so you need to prepare for that ahead of time. And so if you're going to stay in the home and have a temporary occupancy after closing, prepare for that emotional detachment and make sure you're ready for what comes next. Because a lot of times when you're on the buy side of transactions, this can cause issues because, well, once it's done, it's done. Once you close, it's no longer your home. So make sure it's the right decision for you and your family. And last but not least, number 7, the money that you get at the end goes very quickly. So usually this is because when people are buying and selling homes, they're typically taking the equity from that home and rolling it into the next one. And if not all of it, a good chunk of it. And so a lot of times people have this perception that you're going to have a lot of money in your bank left over after everything's said and done, which is true if you don't want to live anywhere else. So just make sure that you plan for the money that you're going to get accordingly and save up and make sure that you know how much is going to go towards bills versus a new purchase, and how much, if let's say that you're buying a home cash and you should still have a lot of money left over, we need to make sure that we set an appointment with your CPA. Have a conversation with them to make sure that you're not going to be taxed at the highest levels for money that you made extra on the house. And that's it. That is the 7 things you need to know before selling your house. And if you have any questions about this, or want to take a look at homes, or want to know what your home value is, please give us a call. Number 770-314-1285, or check out our website at www.georgiaperimeterhomes.com. Thanks. Bye.